Over millennia, man has sought to understand himself and his universe, both within and without. Inevitably, much of that quest has led to the idea of divinity. We have looked for it in our skies, our land, and the unseen wind and the ever-changing water. Yet as great as our need for comprehension has been our inability to truly open our hearts and be touched by it. A select few knew the secret, that to touch divinity and to surrender to it overrides the need to understand it. For true happiness arises in the profound acceptance of surrender, that the divine may actually be so close as to be us, ourselves. Out of compassion for all sentient beings, from time to time down the pages of history, divinity takes human form to point man to the source of his own potential for happiness. On the 23rd of November 1926, an aspect of the divine itself was manifest on earth to live in human form. It was the beginning of an era which will forever be etched in the minds of men. A man like no other, worshipped as God by those who know him, hailed as Savior by those whose lives have been changed by him. This is the remarkable story of he who calls himself Sathya Sai. In a remote backward village called Puttaparthi in Andra Pradesh lived a rural peasant couple named Venkaparaju and Ishwara Amma. They were an ordinary, deeply religious couple and already the parents of a son and two daughters. They hardly suspected that their newborn baby, a boy whom they named Sathya, would prove to be anything but ordinary. Little is known about Sathyanarayan's childhood, collective memory being the only document of that time. But everyone who knew him then agrees that he was certainly unique. His ability to materialize sweets, flowers, fruits, and other objects out of thin air was inexplicable. He was also a good student, and the wisdom, patience, and fortitude he displayed on so many occasions were beyond his years. In some ways, he was almost like a Brahmin, refusing to eat non-vegetarian food and possessing an instinctive and remarkable knowledge of ancient texts and scriptures. He would even correct the local pandits if they made mistakes, much to their annoyance. His love for music and devotional songs is still remembered by the villagers. He even started a traveling bhajan group with a group of boys, which was an instant hit with the pious and the God-revering local people. Then one day in the March of 1940, 14-year-old Sathyanarayan started behaving, it seemed, very strangely. He seemed distant, stopped speaking, and his health started failing. He would often go into a trance and recite hymns in strange languages he was never known to have learned. People thought he was possessed and even took him to a witch doctor to be exorcised. In those superstitious times, people believed that only physical torture could free a human body from an evil spirit. And Sathyanarayan was made to go through such brutal rituals that his family intervened and took him back home. Finally, on the 23rd of May, Sathyanarayan told his amazed father that he was Sai Baba of Shirdi and asked that he be worshipped every Thursday. Everybody, including devotees of Shirdi Sai, thought he was nothing but an impertinent, rambling boy and asked him to prove his fantastic claim. Villagers still remember their amazement when they saw Sathyanarayan take a handful of jasmine flowers and throw them on the ground where they miraculously arranged themselves to spell the words Sai Baba. A few months later, on the 20th of October, he walked back to his brother's house after having left for school in the morning and flung his bag of books at the doorstep. Satyanarayan told his astonished sister-in-law that he did not belong to them any longer. He said he was Sai Baba, and those devoted to him were calling, so he was leaving. He went and sat on a rock in the middle of his neighbor's garden, where people started gathering to worship him with flowers. Amongst the first things he did as Sri Sathya Sai Baba was to lead the congregation in devotional songs that have since become a familiar hallmark. Sai Narayana, Sathya Narayana, Sai Narayana, Sathya Narayana, Sai Narayana, Sathya Narayana, Sai Narayana, Sathya Narayana, Ishwaramba Priyatanaya, Sai Narayana. Soon after, young Sai Baba moved into the house of a widow named Subamma, which evolved over the years into a pilgrim center. People came from far-off places to worship Sai Baba after hearing about his miraculous healing powers. A small ashram grew around the home where devotees would live and interact with Sathya Sai every day. In the evening, as the sun set over the Chitravati river, Sai Baba would perform leelas for his devotees by materializing idols, images, and even exotic fruit from the sands. Sometimes he would disappear, only to appear again in a tree. He would engage them in conversations about spirituality and use his powers to teach them lessons about life, God, and Dharma.
I incarnate from age to age. Overwhelms the world, the Lord will incarnate in human form.
One of the significant records from that time is a letter that Sai Baba wrote to his brother Seshama Raju, who objected to Sai Baba's travels with rich devotees, fearing that his innocence would be corrupted. Sai Baba wrote that only those lacking in belief can be corrupted, and that his true nature and mission were above praise and blame.
नित्य नित्य जपिए तेरे नाम की बोलो नित्य नित्य जपिए नित्य नित्य जपिए तेरे नाम की बोलो नित्य नित्य जपिए सत्य नाम सत्य नाम सत्य नाम जी बोल नित्य नित्य जपिए तेरे नाम की बोलो नित्य नित्य जपिए जपिए तेरे नाम जी बोलो नित्य नित्य जपिए सत्य नाम सत्य नाम सत्य नाम जी बोल
In the early days, many of Sai Baba's devotees formed close relationships with him. Slowly, as the movement grew and more people added their singing voices to the gathering, a large ashram had to be constructed just outside the village to accommodate them. The crowds, which now numbered in the thousands, would come to listen to Sai Baba's discourses, receive his darshan, and hopefully have him smear a pinch of vibhuti on their foreheads. He would materialize this sacred ash from thin air, and it became a signature element of Sai Baba's interaction with his flock.
Om Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
Sometimes we tend to take for granted the precious web of life that surrounds us, be it in the glistening ripples of a sunlit pond or the silent dance of a flower in the wind. We forget that all life, including us, is made of the same elements, and to those same elements all life shall return. Sai Baba has often said in his discourses that ash is the most precious thing in a spiritual sense, since it is the ultimate form of everything. Perhaps if we realize this link between us and everything else, we will treat all life with respect. It is to these ideals that Sai Baba constantly encouraged his devotees to aspire to. By 1957, he started touring India and visited many pilgrim places. He reached out to a suffering world, starting with the traditional paces of pilgrimage. He went to Badrinath, Kashi, Nainital and Haridwar. Wherever he went, he was enthusiastically received by huge crowds of people, eager to witness this young figure that was worshipped as the manifest form of divinity on earth. Sai Baba elaborated frequently on the subject of divinity. He told his devotees the story of how the great sage Bharadwaj was given a boon by Lord Shiva and Parvati. They agreed to take human form 3 times. First, Lord Shiva alone and Sai Baba of Shirdi. Then Shiva and Shakti together as Sathya Sai Baba. And finally, Shakti alone will appear as Prema Sai. In 1961, Sai Baba announced that a core group of devotees would form a volunteer organization called the Sri Sathya Sai Sevadal, which would run the ashram on a daily basis. This would be a labor of love, but also a test of patience and endurance for those devotees who made serving Sai Baba their life's mission. Sai Baba bestowed on them his blessings and his help on their journey towards spiritual enlightenment and divine understanding of the power of love. So many devotees volunteered that just 7 years later, Sai Baba announced the expansion of his movement to 166 countries around the world. Sai Baba's ideals of divine love could now reach millions of people around the globe. The very concept of love has remained so misunderstood by man. It is never given freely like the fruit of a tree, but is held back and distributed conditionally by us. Perhaps Sai Baba's greatest teaching is the unconditional love he gives to all, not just to his devotees. They come in their thousands, tens of thousands, and in their millions, from different faiths, traditions, languages, nationalities, drawn by his universal love. Sai Baba speaks of divine love in his many discourses, always reassuring us that God loves us all unconditionally, whether we return that love or not. Sai Baba's first offering of thanks to his village on the request of his mother was a tribute to that love. It took the form of a hospital, which to this day provides free treatment to anybody who goes there. In 1956, this hospital was started with 6 beds for men and 6 for women, and was soon upgraded to a 100-bed one. Today, however, it pales in comparison to the world-ranking super specialty hospitals, which stand proudly in Puttaparthi and Whitefield. What remains the same is the free treatment given to any ailing person who goes to any of them. Education is the vital equalizer between man and man. It is real education that transcends mere academic knowledge, that can lift the veils of our ignorance, that has been given great emphasis by Sai Baba over the years. The Prasanthi Nilayam ashram has seen the extension of education from the primary school level to that of a full-fledged university. In towns and cities all over the world, numerous schools and colleges have been inspired by the value education, promoting secular values that Sai Baba has spawned. The first of many being the Ladies' College at Anandpur, which was inaugurated by the then President of India, Shri B.B. Giri. The crescendo of the Sai Baba's movement's educational development was reached in 1981 with the establishment of the Sri Sathya Sai Institute for Higher Learning above Prasanthi Nilayam.
जगदीश्वर शांति निकेतना गणनाथ साई गजानना गणनाथ साई गजानना परतीश्वरा दुख भंजना परतीश्वरा दुख भंजना गणनाथ साई गजानना।
Sai Baba's travels all over India have not only given tens of millions the opportunity to have his darshan, but have also expanded the scope of his mission. He has established centers in metropolitan cities like Delhi and Mumbai, as well as in pilgrimage sites around the country. In 1968, Sai Baba went abroad for the first time at the request of devotees. His visit to South Africa had a profound impact on the local Indians and increased international interest in his movement.
Shankara Samba Sada Shiva Esha Mahesha Har Har Shankara Samba Sada Shiva Esha Mahesha Pandava Priya Kara Chandra Kaladhara Isha Mahesha चंद्र कलाधर ईशा महेशा तांडव प्रिय कर चंद्र कलाधर ईशा महेशा अंबासुत लंबोदर वंदित ईशा महेशा
जय गोपाल कृष्ण जय गोपाल बाल बाल राधा कृष्ण जय गोविंद कृष्ण जय गोविंद कृष्ण जय.
While thousands of devotees flocked from all over the world to collectively sing with Sai Baba in the new Sai Kulwant Hall and to watch him perform Vibhuti Abhishekam during the festival of Shivratri, even a greater number of the poor and the disenfranchised were getting free health care from voluntary doctors at Sai Baba's clinics. While thousands watched in awe and amazement as Sai Baba produced lingam after lingam from his body, an equal number of people's lives were changed by Sai Baba's drinking water projects in the arid landscapes of Andhra and Tamil Nadu. Skepticism may have sometimes dogged Sai Baba's popular image, but even the harshest of his critics acknowledge the public good that Sai Baba's mission has served over the decades.
Krishna Jai, Krishna Jai.
The extent of Sai Baba's influence became clear in 1972 when he established the Sri Sathya Sai Central Trust as an umbrella organization to oversee the entire range of activities undertaken by his mission. Within a handful of years, The trust would have 10,000 employees and over 100,000 volunteers to work and monitor the 30,000 Sai centers around the globe and the countless Sai institutions providing social, medical, educational and spiritual succor to tens of millions of people.
Rama Rama Gunadhama Rama Sathya Sai Baba Neela Gagana Ghana Shyama Rama Ravi Vamsha Jaladhi Soma Neela Gagana Ghana Shyama Rama Ravi Vamsha Jaladhi Soma Neela Gagana Ghana Shyama Rama Ravi Vamsha Jaladhi Soma Neela Gagana Ghana Shyama Rama Ravi Vamsha Jaladhi Soma Sita Sati
In a disillusioned world battered daily by personal want and greed, public strife and war, it is rare in history to find human embodiments of our divine potential. Man struggling with himself and fellow man over land, religion, politics, the list is endless. One of Sai Baba's principal ideals, especially of late, is to urge unity and harmony between people. He says that religion and country don't define us. We're all part of humanity under a single guiding hand, God.
Allah tum ho Mola tum ho
It was in the spirit of these cherished ideals that Sai Baba built a new mosque for Muslims in 1978 and a Gokulam dedicated to Lord Krishna for the local cattle in 1974.
Saisha tum ho Sathya Saisha tumhi ho
Unity and harmony have been the focus of many world conferences and events held at Prasanthi Nilayam over the years. And recently the Unity Cricket Cup, held in the campus stadium in 2001, was attended by national leaders and sportsmen alike. In fact, the logo that Sai Baba chose for his mission represents unity, and as he once told a delighted devotee, it is meant to fuse rather than confuse the world.
जय जय साई श्याम जय जय साई श्याम प्रेम भरो दिल में हमारे साई राम प्रेम भरो दिल में हमारे साई राम प्रेम भरो
Today, crowds of people flock to the town of Prasanthi Nilayam to be granted a darshan of Sai Baba. He walks amidst them, as he always has, taking their letters and allowing them to prostrate at his feet. He sometimes talks to them, sometimes creates a pinch of vibhuti for them. And on occasions like Shivratri, Buddha Purnima, Onam, Christmas, and the Chinese New Year, he allows them a tiny glimpse of his divinity by displaying his extraordinary powers.
ఉడమి తల్లి ఎంతో పులకరించు విశ్వశాంతినిచ్చు విశ్వశాంతినిచ్చు వివిధ సౌఖ్యము హెచ్చు వినుడు భారతీయ
The fact is that Sathya Sai Baba, like life itself, is an unexplained phenomena. Clearly, his magic is in his emotional connection with those who continue to make their way to Puttaparthi from all corners of the earth. One thing is clear. In our quest to understand divinity and attain enlightenment, we must allow ourselves to open our hearts and experience divine love. and divine love is really what Sathya Sai Baba is all about.